Don't you want it? 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 You lose your living mind. My Deadlights.
Welcome to the Deadlights podcast. I'm your host, Sam Johnson.
And I am Leslie, and we're bringing you your weekly dose of horror, like always, every week, everybody.
Every week, every day. And today we have a special guest,
Mari!
Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Welcome back.
I'm
Welcome
so excited.
Well, you haven't been on this podcast, but you were on
Yeah.
the 31 days, so we've been eager to get you back here.
I'm
So
so happy to be back.
yeah, it was
On a beautiful, gorgeous day, may I just say.
It is absolutely amazing out in the Chicago awful weather that we've had. We finally have a day that's 60, and we're inside.
We're inside.
There's
for a
no
little bit.
place I'd rather be, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Just gonna say it.
Perfect. Me either.
The window.
Well, this was I think it was and how the horror fates have, blessed us with the movie selection. It just worked out that you were on the episode for Nightmare Alley.
Mhm.
And that was a movie that you mentioned to me a long time ago, saying you just wanted to talk to me about it.
Yes.
So it kind of works out.
Yes.
That's freaky deaky, yeah.
Yeah.
Because she was set to be here a while back ago.
A few weeks ago, yeah.
And unfortunately it didn't happen, but we're definitely having you back. And
And I was like, you guys can't get rid of me.
No. Well, yeah, because
Absolutely not.
we set the date before we knew what the movie was. And then
Yeah.
it was just this movie. So
Yeah.
now we're forced to talk about it to each other, and we're going to record it too.
Oh my god.
Hopefully.
Forced.
Oh my god.
Forced.
Record.
But what did we just watch?
Nightmare Alley.
Nightmare Alley
I was
from
going to say Nightfarer.
Nightfarer. Nightmare Alley from 2021, directed by Guillermo del Toro, written by Guillermo del Toro and Kim Morgan. An ambitious carny with a talent for manipulating people with a few well-chosen words hooks up with a female psychiatrist who's even more dangerous than he is. Dun, dun, dun.
Now I get it.
It's a wild explanation.
Yeah.
It is a wild explanation.
It's very much part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the main... Because this is the second time I'm watching it, second time you're watching it, first time Leslie has seen it. It was definitely... that was the thing that I noticed most about it the first time after watching it, was how it feels like there's such this split down the middle of the movie. We have this first part, which is kind of like the rise of Bradley Cooper's character, and then we have the second part, which is 2 years later, completely different place, not in the carnival anymore, looks different, he's different looking, everything is super different, and then it's kind of like his fall in that second portion. It just, the first time I saw it, I was kind of thrown off, because it was not what I was expecting.
I was like, is it time to go? And then the movie kept going.
Yeah.
And I was like, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But this time I realized the purpose that part 1 has for I call it part 1 and part 2, but like the purpose that it has. It's the foundation, and it sets up the motifs and like the mood of the movie, and it did its job because Leslie guessed the end like 20 minutes in.
Yeah, it's true. It's great. Well, let's get into it from the top.
Make it drop.
That's some wet ass pussy.
Hello.
Completed.
I was actually waiting for that. Yeah, I was.
All right, now you can check out for the rest
Okay.
of it.
I'm done.
We start at with Bradley Cooper,
Mhm.
and he's dragging a body. Start with him throwing a body into a pit
In a house.
in a house, and then lighting it on fire. That's where we start. That's the first thing. Him burning down this house with his dead body. We're not starting from a very good place.
No.
And I mean, obviously, we've seen this before, so it's kind of cool to see how it's starting because, yeah, this is a pretty bad omen. We're starting with a guy who just killed someone. For you, I don't know if you were thinking about that immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
He did not look like a good person.
Mm-hmm.
He is shoving, he's okay, so like the scene has him physically pull the dead body from us. You know, like the audience, the angle, and it's like being put into a hole in a house.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sets everything on fire as he's smoking a cigarette.
Very calmly, just lights that cigarette and throws down the match to engulf the entire
This
house.
is someone, what's the word I want to use? Methodical?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just like, He doesn't care about anybody else but himself.
Yeah. He literally starts the house on fire like it's no big deal, is in no rush to get his baggage as the entire house bursts into flames, then gets on a bus and proceeds to sleep like a baby.
Yes.
To the last stop of the bus.
He is so calm about it. That's what I wrote down too. I was like, damn, this guy is, there's no sweat, there's no anxiety.
Also,
he is, has he done this before?
Yeah, has he done this before? Which I like put serial killer, you know? Because like, he was calm in the bus, and he had no destination. He took that bus until it couldn't anymore, and then he just got off. And oh, look at me!
He just wanders
at the circus.
Into the circus.
He just wanders into this carnival, and yeah, you're right. He has zero direction, which I think that's how we learn. And also, the character's name is Stan, by the way, played by Bradley Cooper. As we learn this character, I mean, I think that's where he thrives best, you know. In this first about 10 to 15 minutes of the movie, he doesn't say a single word. People come up to him and start talking to him and almost just offering him things just because of how he looks, his calm disposition. He's manipulating people without even
saying single word.
And this is like his comfort zone, because I think what he's doing too in this first part of this movie, while he's not talking, is he's learning about the people that he's around. He's a quiet
observer.
Yeah, he's observing. He's trying to figure out, what do these people want, and how can I give that to them
in a way that also benefits me.
Yes, I'm going to analyze these people for a while until I actually choose to speak. And then he wanders into the geek show. And Willem Dafoe is like the carnival barker he's like constantly carnival barking. Even when he's like having a conversation one-on-one, he's like, again, he's really good at selling.
He's always on.
He's on. He's always selling to the crowd or to the person that he's with.
He's a hustler.
Yeah.
Hustler.
He's a hustler.
He's another example of someone who's trying to manipulate you out of your quarter.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what he's selling in this first moment, is something you've never ever seen before. It's called the Geek Show.
Something you don't want to see.
No.
Well,
but these people
do.
Yeah, it's like they take him into this room where there's a deep pit in the ground, and everyone's kind of like surrounding this pit. And they open the door, and it's the geek, who's just like this dirty old
starving man.
Yeah.
That's barely a man at this point.
Yeah. He's so deteriorated. At least, like, there's a clear separation between just, like, his mental state.
It's animalistic. It's sad. For me, like, when I first saw it in the theaters, it was heartbreaking.
Oh,
well, and all these people, too, that are watching and paying for this are encouraging it. You know, they're yelling at him and they're screaming at him like he is an animal, like he's just this caged beast, and then they're paying money to see that.
Makes them feel better about their lives, and that's a really huge part of this movie. And I think, like, I hate this scene, and I talked about this from the start. I was like, the chicken scene. But then, after listening to it, because I didn't watch it, I was like, it's actually a really, really important scene, because it sets the tone for the movie. It creates you like being uncomfortable, and that's a huge part of the movie. And it's this whole thing about humans trying to make ourselves feel better, and what is the value of a human life, and humanity and morality.
Yeah,
it's a good scene,
and it's also incredibly important because we'll be back here. You know, for the character, we'll be back here, and we're starting the movie in this very dark and fucked up place. But how this movie, what it does so well is it brings us back to this place.
To me, what I got from it is just, this is a place where you would land if you give in to your addictions. Like, you will go above and beyond to stay in that state. And that is drinking chicken blood, you know, for the sake of this person who's bringing you just a little shot every other day.
Yeah.
The first night, I think this is a really big deal. The first time he speaks, is when he offers, or the geek gets loose.
Yes, the geek gets loose, and everyone's like, "We gotta find the geek."
It's so bad.
And Bradley Cooper goes into like the coolest looking funhouse I've ever seen.
Oh, it was so cool.
It looks terrifying. Why would you bring your child there? Like,
it looks really scary.
Tone of the movie.
It's for teenagers.
Yeah.
PG-13.
PG-13. And yeah, it's got like these like really cool, like the devil's mouth opens
Yeah.
up.
And like the skeletons along the sides.
Yeah,
The eyeball. Oh,
Mhm.
that's when I shot out. I was like, oh my god, this set is amazing.
yeah, it's really
So
cool. And then Bradley Cooper finds the geek kind of huddled in the corner. And I mean, something that keeps happening throughout this first part of the movie too is that Bradley Cooper shows sympathy to the geek. He's one of the only people that we see actually show sympathy towards the geek, which is interesting. And I don't know if it's genuine.
I don't know if it's sympathy or pity.
Pity, yeah.
You know?
Or if he knows that he can manipulate the geek if he is one of the only people that shows him sympathy or pity.
Humanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I just find it interesting too, because like what he does when he finds the geek is, when I first watched the movie, I was like, wait, is Bradley Cooper, is Stan actually maybe has a good side to him? Because I thought that he was ready to let the geek go. And he kind of was, because he was like, you didn't do anything to me. I'm not going to turn you in, but just so you know, they're looking for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's when the geek comes at him with the rock on his head. Like, that's when I was like, okay. And then he almost kills him in response. And then I was like, oh, no, not good, not good.
Yeah. It's like he's just using that sympathy that he knows that the geek is getting from no one else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first moment that he chooses to speak in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, hey, buddy, why don't you come out? He calls him buddy, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like being really soft. He uses that against him when he realizes that no, the geek is just kind of this animalistic guy. His first response is to fight. Well,
you asked for
yep,
it.
he takes him, he hits him like
Twice
in the head with a fucking like police baton. This is when like Willem Dafoe kind of starts to take Bradley Cooper like under his wing or start to like him because he's like, why are you staying here? Nice dry place to stay. You can sleep in here for as long as you want. And, you know, the carnival is the perfect place because people don't care where you came from.
No.
Mm-hmm.
People don't care what your baggage is, essentially, is what he says at the end of that scene. So, pretty much, you can reinvent yourself right now.
Yep.
And Bradley Cooper does that.
Oh, he did.
He does.
He goes hard.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, this is also where he introduces Enoch, right? And the vials, or does that come a little later?
I think that comes a little later, but we could just talk about it now because that is another interesting part of this movie that they keep going back to. Willem Dafoe's character has this collection of pickled babies. Yeah,
Fetuses.
I wrote down pickled babies.
Pickled babies.
And they're all. He said they mostly died in the womb or like immediately after coming out of the womb, and it's just like literally this like, it's a room, and the walls are just lined with these shelves of pickled babies.
From all stages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, he's got a lot of pride in this collection. Like, you can tell Willem Dafoe, like, loves this collection.
The lady's
That's
pregnant.
scary.
What lady?
The spider lady?
No,
What
his
lady?
partner. The one that's, like, collecting the quarters.
Wait, what?
Oh, when at the beginning of the scene when
God.
and then you see them again dancing in the room
Yeah.
and she's pregnant.
Oh, no. Where did she go?
Subplot.
Oh, God. Did Willem Dafoe rip a baby from her?
Oh, probably.
Well, this also comes back in part 2 with the whole baby thing.
Yeah, the abortion.
Really big.
That's
Yeah.
that's why I'm thinking
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That like really terrified me.
So
when you did that,
sorry.
But it's perfect. No, it's
Connection.
I have a presence in the room. You guys.
Stop. Why?
It's a-
Where's the lie detector?
It's a dead baby. No, I don't like dead baby jokes, you guys.
No.
I really don't.
Unless it's
but,
really funny, though.
oh my
Unless
god.
it's like really
Oh
good.
That was like
my
really good.
god.
No, but you're right. I didn't think about that. I mean, Willem Dafoe. The first time I watched this movie, I was like kind of disappointed that we didn't get more of him because I really like his character, and I was like, oh, there's not really much going on in this character, but obviously there's connections like this where he's throwing things in here, these little details.
Yep.
To tell us
Maybe he
more
got
about this
caught,
guy.
or maybe I don't know. Somebody got to him.
Well, Willem Dafoe has no regard for human life either.
No.
Because he doesn't give a shit about the geek once they're broken. I mean,
so that's what. Why would he
Literally
have a
value
partner?
of a life.
Why would he have a partner?
Why would he have a partner?
To use her.
Absolutely, to get dead babies.
Manipulating women is also a really big thing in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And especially, like, by thinking that by making them feel as though they're powerful, and then trying to take their power. But we'll get to that.
Yes.
That's what a manipulation does.
So Pickle Baby Room ends with him introducing Enoch, which is his, like, prized baby. And it's this crazy looking baby with a big third eye.
Yep.
And I mean, obviously the third eye is a symbol of seeing into the future and seeing, like, when you open your third eye, you're, like, seeing the truth.
Using your sixth sense.
Yeah.
You know?
And we keep like, throughout this movie, we're getting cutaways of that baby. Especially in times of, like, Bradley Cooper
like
doing
30
something
times.
bad, or, like, Enoch's always watching, and you will be back here. Because the Enoch is kept in the same place as the geek, too. It's, like, in that same part.
It's in the same, like, upper hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, foreshadow.
Mm-hmm.
And so he starts working there, and we do get him kind of wandering around and eventually meeting Toni Collette and her husband Pete, who... It's kind of interesting, I thought, how that scene started, where he asked for a bath. He, like, comes up to her on the porch, and he's like, hey, can I get a bath? Like...
I think that there were intentions.
Oh, for
100%. And this is where the manipulation starts with Xena.
Yeah. And let's also state that there's... Going back to the baby stuff, there's mommy and daddy issues going on through this entire
whole thing.
movie.
Like Pete, like, let's talk about it. Pete and Xena. Pete is like 20-something years older than Xena.
Yes.
They're married.
Clearly age difference.
Age difference. And then, like, that's clearly something going on, and especially when Pete forms the relationship with Stan. Then we really start to see Stan's daddy issues.
Oh, yeah.
Coming to light.
When we see people really manipulating other people in this movie, it almost always goes back to trauma with mommy or daddy. Like, obviously, Bradley Cooper's got a big daddy issue. Even later, the guy that in the final act, what he's dealing with is his relationship with his wife, who was pregnant. So he's becoming a father. It's all parental issues that people cling onto and then use against them.
It's
or each other.
cyclical. It is something that people either do for survival or they learn from somebody else. Like it's something that is just constantly like you're overthinking and you're anxious and you're just like needing to control everything around you. It's exhausting to think about.
These people are always on.
Oh yeah,
always on. And in this scene when we meet Toni Collette, Xena, that's her name. Yes, we meet Xena. Pete goes off to get food or something, and Stan hops in the tub. And Xena's kind of,
The imagery, though, is so powerful with Xena above him in the tub for a second. And that comes back with the doctor. Yeah. That imagery.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like above and almost like maternal.
Yeah. Well, and what she's talking about, too, is you're a good-looking kid. You're very good-looking. You have that subtle southern drawl. You can use that to soften people up. She's, like, telling him that he has more power than he thinks he does. Or at least she thinks he does. Because I feel like he knows his power through this whole thing. She's just validating it in this scene.
It's his way of getting to her. And being like, oh, but no, I'm just this gentleman. And she's like, you sexy as fuck.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you really think so?
And again, going back to kind of a parental relationship, she recognizes that he's new in this, like, carnival world. She offers to, like, show him the ways and kind of teach him some of the tricks and the trades of the industry, kind of mommying him a little bit. I will bring you up into this world, and I will teach you how to hustle and how to get it done, because I can tell you could be very good. She calls him a maybe at one point.
Yeah.
Maybes are dangerous to
Yes.
me.
Hand up thigh.
Oh.
Grab some Bradley
meat.
Cooper man meat.
Some Bradley Cooper
Die.
meat. You gotta see it too. I was kind of watching
Oh,
this
you see his
time, and I
penis.
was like, "Whoa!"
You definitely see Bradley Cooper penis.
I was like, "That's Bradley Cooper's penis."
Yeah, definitely see it.
Suman.
But the thing also
But-
that I really think is interesting in the movie is their use of kissing
Oh yeah.
and lack of, and when they choose to, and how they kiss. Because this is at their first meeting, him and Xena. They kind of go tongue first.
Yeah.
And this is after she's touching the Bradley Cooper penis.
Mhm.
And
Because also to her
She's got
it's
him by the balls.
lustful. She
Right there.
has a husband.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, oh,
who
yeah.
she loves, I think very, very much.
But he's always he's a drunk.
Yep.
You know? And he kinda knows it too.
And it kind of makes sense why she's attracted to Bradley Cooper.
They're very similar,
Mm-hmm.
but
That's what Pete was when he was
Pizza has been.
Yeah.
yeah.
He was the hot shit. But it sounds like he had a very similar past to Bradley Cooper, where he had a very successful act, rose to fame, and then something happened. I mean, he gave into his drinking.
Spooky times.
Spook
He spooked him. He
shows,
spooked him.
and now he's here. Now he is a carny as well. So, they are very similar, and they're very, yeah. I think you're right. I think Xena sees that similarity between them, and Pete's not giving her to her right anymore. We got young blood.
It's stand
Young
time.
blood.
Stand time.
Stand time. But then,
That too.
and at the end of that scene, she kind of asks him to be part of her act as well, and we go on to see he's learning the ways of her act. She is a psychic, and I love this scene honestly because we're really starting to look into the behind the scenes of these hustles and how they actually
Trick everybody.
trick an entire crowd of people. And it's a lot of, Bradley Cooper's gathering the questions that the crowd has, but they've already picked the question that they want, because when he goes behind the scenes, they just switch the basket.
Mm-hmm.
And then under the stage, Pete is feeding Xena all the information from all the people. So, and they have this very down pat coded system between each other because they've been working for so long. But Pete is super drunk.
And he's failing. He's
failing.
He's failing her.
Yeah, he's passing out in the middle of the performance and can't feed her the information anymore. And she has to save it by pretending that this poor person in the crowd's dead brother is there and
Touching.
do you feel him? Do you feel him?
Well, she asked, do you have brothers? And she was like, no, I have one sister. And she's like, well, I did have a brother. And she was like, yeah, that's why. Because he's here. I
was
can
perfect.
see him. Yeah.
But and then this is when I first realized how this psychic act is using basic human observing human life and tropes of humanity and using it and turning it, because all of these people just so desperately are looking for something.
Yeah.
And it's so easy that if you just look at someone and see, as Bradley Cooper does later, how it's easy, it's simple, and the manipulation is not hard.
Yeah. I mean, what he tells the psychologist is you want to be found out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these are desperate people that just want to be seen one way or another.
This is kind of the establishing of the spook show, as they call it. Because what happened is she saves the show by calling out to this woman's dead brother. But the very next scene is Xena telling this woman that, sorry, it was all an act. We missed a cue, and I just had to save the show. And Bradley Cooper is kind of like, why would you do that? You're just give them hope. And Pete is very much like, no, you do not do spook shows. Spook shows ultimately someone's going to get hurt.
And he was like, it's not hope if it's a lie.
Which, I remember when I first saw this movie and I was like a little bit on Bradley Cooper's side. I was just like, just like let that lady believe that her dead brother is with her.
Yeah.
Like give her that hope. But you're right. It's not. It's a lie. You're using their trauma against them. And their hope against them too.
But also, like, what great of a feeling must that be to be right, you know? Like, when you are right in whatever circumstance, it, like, is a good feeling. You're like, oh, shit, well, what else am I right about?
There's got to be such a rush.
There is that God complex. You start believing that everything you're saying is the truth.
It's an addiction.
Yeah.
Yes. And this scene is also interesting, too, because we get now another little look behind the scenes of the act, which Pete and Xena have been perfecting for years.
Years and years.
Years. It sounds like decades. The entire time they've known each other, they've been perfecting this essentially coded system. They've come up with, she will feed him the truth about whatever someone is asking through whatever she's saying. So in this scene, Xena holds the pocket watch of Bradley Cooper, and Pete doesn't see it, but she says something to the effect of, what is the piece that I am holding in my hand? Professor. And Pete goes into this trance of he's able to tell exactly what it is. He describes the pocket watch exactly, and then goes beyond that and tells the meaning of the pocket watch.
Daddy issues.
It was your father's prized possession. There's hate that you have between you and your father, and there's also been a death or a loss of life of some. And fucking Stan he's taken. He's bought into it. He believes him.
Yeah.
But then Pete reveals the truth. You know, he reveals how Xena was able to feed him what it was, and then
it's all in this pocketbook.
Yes, he's like, everything you need to know is in this little black book. It's all their secrets. Every word means something else. And also he talks about the generalization calls that you have to make with your mark, as they call them. You have to be able to read your mark as well, because that's how he got to the truth of what the father's pocket watch really meant. He was looking for his reactions.
In the eyes. And the eyes and how they talk, and even to what they're wearing, because that will indicate just, are they wealthy and, just class.
Yeah. And Bradley Cooper he's like, oh, shit.
He's like, teach me.
Yeah, I would love to know how to do this. This sounds great. And Stan, Pete starts to.
Yeah.
They definitely give him little information here and there. He's not letting him take the book that has all the secrets, because he knows that in the wrong hands it can be very dangerous. But he is still giving him little lessons here and there.
He was honored. Pete is my favorite character. He fell to the alcohol, but not as dramatically as we're going to see in some other characters. But he's just a dude trying to guide Stan, you know? He was like, no one's asked me to teach them in a really long time. And I was like, that is so earnest. And I was rooting for him, you know? I loved Pete and what he kind of symbolized in the darkness of this movie. And yes, there is a dark undertone to him, of course. But the energy that he brought in all of the scenes and stuff, I was just like, this is the sunshine that we need. Until
he was a person that, again, sounded like he went through a very similar path to Stan, and is now trying to teach him the lessons. He's made mistakes. Pete made mistakes, and he's now trying to help Stan learn from his mistakes.
Yep.
But Stan is too much of a manipulator, and I think that he recognizes that, again, we have this father-son relationship going on. He's looking up to Pete, and Pete is able to teach him and raise him, as a son. Yeah. So
Who's fucking his mom.
Who's fucking his mom.
Yeah.
Using it.
But is in love with Molly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But we then start to see their relationship kind of grow and blossom. Well, his way into Rooney Mara Molly is to help her with her act and to make her feel special. I mean, he's paying special attention to her and coming up with the pretty cool electric chair idea. Pretty cool looking. And seemingly, like, he just cares about making her act better. He's recruiting his Xena.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, Xena is a tough woman, and he knows that he can't have anything else with her but just lust. Like, a lustful relationship.
Yes.
And then when he finds her, yeah, she's beautiful, and he can manipulate her as much as he wants to keep her around.
And I think that she also has some character growth, too, because I think that at the beginning, Stan thinks that Molly's easily malleable, easily manipulated. And I think it's inspiring to see her journey through part 1 and part 2, because she finally, I mean, it takes a second, but she finally realizes enough is enough.
Feel so bad for her.
Yeah, I know.
I do
and
too.
again...
And also, like, women's rights in the 40s. And
Yeah. Well, and again, too, the strongman, Ron Perlman, again, establishes her father died when she was little. Again, another father-parental relationship that's skewed. Bradley Cooper can step in and be that kind of father, nurturing figure for her to help her out, and then ultimately use that against her. Earlier in the movie, we didn't really mention this, but Willem Dafoe has these, like, 2 boxes. One has, like, liquor in it, and then the other one right next to it, don't know why they have to be right next to each other, but the other one has, like, essentially poison. Like, it's for the show, but if you drink it, you're
dead.
You're done. He's like, so don't take from this one, always take from this one, okay?
The blue box, not the red box.
Yeah, just don't forget that, and it'll come back later. And then Pete, obviously, he's an alcoholic, and he's constantly asking Willem Dafoe for liquor. He's trying to figure out how he can get liquor. He asks Bradley Cooper, can you please go get me a bottle of liquor? Does he choose the wrong bottle on purpose?
Yeah. I think so.
He says it was a mistake later.
I think that he's had his use from Pete and wants the book.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think he chose to.
I think he chose.
And knowing, we started off the movie with him burying a body, or burning a body. So we know he's capable of murder.
Yeah.
So I think... Yeah,
and hiding it.
And hiding it, yeah. Because it was a mistake. You know, no one's going to blame Bradley Cooper. He's accidentally grabbed the wrong bottle, and Pete drank it, and...
Because, like, here's the thing. I don't think because in that scene, there's the fight over the book because he was trying. I don't think he wanted to kill him because he's trying to grab the book. Because I think what his plan was is take the book, get Molly, go.
I think he was just, like, not even trying to take it. He was just going to read it right there and then.
But then to realize how much value it had, he was like, well, ba-boom.
Yeah, what did he say? He said when he was trying to... when he tried to look at the book, Pete stops him and he says, "Shut-eye." That's what happens when a person who uses his books and starts believing their own lies. They're so wrapped up. It's kind of what I was talking about before with, like, the masks, you know. Once you put on that God mask, do you even want to take it off?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you, like, start believing that, like, you can be a mass manipulator, that's it. I can manipulate anyone. And shut-eye is when you're under that delusion.
And I think that's what, like, happens in the extremities. That's what happens when somebody becomes a murderer and a serial killer, is that there's a point where you start getting this high and thinking that you are and can murder anybody without getting away with it. You know?
Yeah.
And that is the freakiest
I mean,
thing.
it's incredibly narcissistic. You know, you believe you're above every other person.
Right.
Because you can manipulate anyone. I'm in control of everything. And that ultimately is his downfall.
That's exactly it. Also the big thing that I noticed too, also I think it might have been on purpose, is they use Bradley Cooper's eyes in shots very strategically and specifically, and they light his eyes at a lot of different times. And the first time that I really noticed his eyes, his bright blue eyes, is during that scene of him poisoning Pete. I was like, there they are, and they're beaming. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was something too.
He's got his gaze fixed on exactly what he wants, and he's looking through him to figure out how to get it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, murder was the way to get this.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
because Pete's dead.
Yeah,
Pete dies. Fucking poor Xena.
Xena's so sad.
Yeah, she's so sad, crying out, and Bradley Cooper's kind of like, shit, empty space. Empty space.
And he literally took it within that night. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's got the book now, clearly. And then the last scene that we have in this first part is this very interesting moment that Stan has with Xena, because he comes up to Xena right before they're about to drive off, and offers her Pete's book back. He's like, "Do you want it?" And she's like, "No, you keep it. You earned it.
You worked hard for it.
You worked hard for it." Does she know that he killed Pete?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, because she comes back again.
She does.
Yeah.
She didn't want Pete dead.
No, I don't think that.
Him.
Yeah.
But does she know how dangerous he is?
I can see a world in which, yes, she knows, and is just kind of like resigned to it. You know what I mean? Like, you did that to get this, so take it. You earned it. You killed my husband for it.
Yeah.
Keep it.
Yeah, because I didn't know how to take that line of "you earned it." Like,
I think she just saw the amount of work that he was doing with Pete, and I think she knew how much, he looked like he loved Pete.
Yeah.
And aspired to be like him.
And thinking about her kind of looking at him like a surrogate kind of son figure, she's like maybe a little proud of like, hey, we taught you a lot. Me and Pete taught you a lot. You're the product of us. And she's kind of like, now we're sending you off to the world.
Yeah. He saved the carnival.
He saved the carnival. And they go off.
Into the sunset.
They go off into the sunset.
One of the few times it's not raining.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. And bright sunset, and we're going to see the world and everything in it. It's now 2 years later. Part 2, 2 years later. And Molly's learning, like reading from the book, from the cheat book.
She's like reciting it.
She's reciting it, going over it over and over and over again. And Stan is there kind of like dozing off. We get another flash of the beginning. We get like fire and then him.
But it's like all
it's reverse.
It's reverse.
Yeah, the fire is like going back. And then we see him standing or sitting over his father. And he's, it's time for you to go.
Stroking his hair very lovingly.
Very lovingly, yeah. And then wake up. And we are in, they're obviously in a way different plane than they were in the beginning of this movie. We're in a nice apartment. It's beautiful. Everything's so grandiose and clean. They're very clean cut. He's all shaven. Different life that they're living right now. They're successful. And we see their show, and it's a big show. There's a big audience there, and their venue is huge, too.
And they're eating it up. The audience is loving it.
Oh, yeah. They look rich. They're in a rich setting.
Oh, yeah.
It's marble on the fucking floor, for God's sake.
Yeah. And they're doing the act. They're doing the act that Pete talked about in the beginning, and really taking advantage of it. Molly is his Xena now, feeding him the information. And people are... Yeah, they are absolutely loving it. They're doing 2 shows a day. Things are going great. And then this is when we get introduced to...
Lilith.
Dr. Lilith.
Dr. Lilith Ritter.
Doctor. Not Missy.
No
Doctor.
Miss. Doctor.
She earned it.
No ring on it.
Played by no ring on it. Played by Kate Blanchett, and this is a little test, I think, that she's about to put him through.
Oh yeah.
How good is this guy? How much can he really think on his feet? Because she interrupts the show. And she's like, tell me what I have in my handbag. And she doesn't let Molly touch it. She also doesn't let her speak. Because she's like, I want you to tell me what I have in my handbag.
It's badass, I will say. Like, that is badass of her to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she calls him out. She's like, I think that Molly's feeding you the answers. I think that that's your shtick.
Yep.
Bradley Cooper, for a second, I think just for 1 second, I kind of felt like, oh shit. He's on his heels now. He's fucked. Like, what now what? But he's pretty good.
He does make, like, he does a monologue in the round, just being like, oh, this lady wants to test me, blah, blah, blah. He goes over and he's like, clearly, you have a pistol in your bag. And I know what kind of pistol, too. It's a nickel with a pearl handle. Blah, blah, blah.
Nickel-plated,
Pearl, iron-fisted, I don't know.
And he's right. She opens the purse and a little pistol in there.
The bullets are pearls.
Little pearls. Pew, pew, pew.
Tiny little gun. Which is interesting that the first interaction that they have with each other is surrounding the gun. And then the last interaction that they have with each other is also surrounding that same gun. So, cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
It's all a cycle.
Yeah. And he goes to meet Lilith in her office. This is the first time we're in her office.
Is this when he practices talking?
Oh, he's in the elevator.
Yes.
Yeah, like, right? And I'm like, ding, 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 ding.
You and I can have the biggest act in the city.
Yeah, he's like in the elevator and he's what does he even say? He's like,
you and I.
We can make a dent in this town. That's what he says. And we can make a dent in this town. We can make a dent in this town. And then gets off the elevator. He's a normal person again, right?
And it's echoing the line that he had told Molly. You and I can have the biggest act if we just get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And then now he's like, I'm trying to replace her a little bit.
Yep.
Oh, 100%.
Trying to move
up.
another tier up. Yeah.
Upgrade.
Always trying to move up.
What is above circus? Psychology.
Yes.
That's where psychology lives.
And so he meets with Lilith, Dr. Lilith, for the first time. And her office is massive, first of all. Amazing office.
I'm like, where did you get all of this money? How were you allowed to go to college? Like, I have a lot of questions about Lilith's upbringing. She's got to come from money. And her parents had to have bought her into an education.
Right.
Like, crazy.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
She's a woman.
Yeah, she's a woman.
In the 30s.
All money. But, oh my God, there's wood everywhere. And it's gorgeous.
It echoes. Mm-hmm. It's massive.
And the wood stains look like, Rorschach tests, like those ink plots. That's what the stain on the wood looks like.
Oh.
So it's like, you walk into the room, you're immediately starting to be analyzed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that unconsciously she is starting to get to him. And, I mean, the first thing that she asks him is if he wants a drink. And he says, I never touch this stuff. And take note of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She also did. She was like,
Okay. Got it. And she also shows him this recording device that it's always recording the sessions. Every session that I've ever had is recorded. And it's like hidden in this like locked cabinet or whatever. And he takes note of that. He eventually leads to him being like, I think that we can make a big dent in this town. He finally says it. Mm-hmm. And kind of implying that she can give him information about people and then he can then go use it to do these psychic readings or whatever. Because she's a psychologist. She knows all these people's deepest, darkest secrets. So can you feed me a little bit to give me a little in with some of these people?
Split it.
Split it 50-50.
And her deal is, all right, I'll trade info, but you have to then give me info about yourself. She'll give him some if he does these sessions with her, so she can learn more about him. And I think it's like that night that they do that first session.
Yeah. And there's also like this whole scene, there's this crazy back and forth of power of each one. Like, will they, won't they? Who's got the upper hand? What's going on? Who's going to let the other person have the upper hand? There's just like so many layers to the conversation, and the way that like they blocked Kate Blanchett when, you know, she'll be standing and then she'll sit, she'll lean, she'll, you know, like it was so much of a push-pull, even like cinematically, that for me it even like it clouded when I first watched it. I was like, what? Who's in charge right now?
Both of them.
Yeah.
But also she is willing, I would say she's more in power because she knows that he wants the power, so then she'll sit down when she needs to sit down.
She'll submit to it.
So then that way she can keep pulling him in, and with every little one, he would admit to more things.
And like she
more.
started analyzing him from the second he walked in.
Oh.
Which automatically gives her.
Well, and then this is when I wrote down, okay, this is actually when he's starting to be used as the geek. Because she's immediately starting to play into his addictions, which is power, and feeding him power. And
lust.
And he'll always come back because he thinks he'll always have that with her. Just like the alcohol and the opium is used for the geek. So she is already geeking him right now. And letting him get sucked in by her incredible manipulation.
But she knew that with her own body, she was only able to give so much. But with alcohol, that was like the end of it. Like she knew she would destroy him.
And that first session is really interesting because she immediately starts with, when I offered you a drink, you said you never touched the stuff. And it came from a point of pride. This is when we start to get the unraveling of, oh, your father was a drinker. You associate it with that. The smell you associate with him and also with Pete, because that was the thing that you used to kill him. So there's this tie that she makes with Pete and his father. And then that's when he admits to killing Pete. And he's at this point like laying down, like he's literally submissive.
And she's over him, stroking him, holding his head, very maternal.
Yup. Mommy.
Mommy, sorry. Mommy,
again,
sorry.
Tying these mommy and daddy issues back.
Bad news.
Bad.
And yeah, this is when he said it was a mistake, right? And then I thought, because I wrote mistake does not equal remorse. You know? I think
Guilt.
Yeah, I don't think he accidentally killed him. I think that he killed him and was like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe it wasn't necessary to the plot of my life.
And, well, the way
Yeah.
he said, I'll never be like my father. And she's like, there's that word again. We're going to have to work on that.
Never. You keep saying never.
Because she's like, oh, so you have, or you are, currently right now.
Yeah. It's like it's such a hard stance. Like, why are you making it so hard? There must be something there.
Yeah. My mother would always tell me, don't ever say hate and don't ever say never. Because, there will always, never is going to always have you contradict yourself. Because there needs to be a room for change, you know, for adaptation and stuff. So, never is such a strong word. And people will use that against you.
Yep.
Also hate.
That's when he says, the judge wants to introduce me to one of his friends who might be pretty big. We should keep this thing going. He's got a taste for it. He's like super high off of this reading that he did, and he wants more. Then we go to meet Ezra for the first time.
Yes.
Immediate lie detector test. He's like, hey, I'm Ezra, sit down. We're doing a lie detector test right now.
Know this, know that, know this, know that. Take off your jacket, sit down. And he's failing it.
He's freaking the fuck out.
Yeah. And he's like, just like at first, so what's your name? What date is it? What year is it? And he's like, what the fuck? What is this? This was the president of the United States.
Yeah, he's like, silly.
Yeah.
And then he starts getting the questions. Can you reach the beyond? Can you talk to the dead?
And then
negative.
And you see it, and then heroically, it was brilliant. What he did was brilliant.
He went into his act.
Yeah.
And it calmed his heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
But also somebody told him literally just breathe. And he was, because they noticed that he wasn't breathing, and they're like, just breathe. And he was like, oh yeah. And
dead people.
Wait, I have to stop. There's a woman. There's a woman who's calling out. She's calling out, and it's you, Ezra. She's calling for you. And Ezra's like, and then that's when he calls out forced abortion. And he's like, you forced an abortion on her, didn't you?
And then everyone stop.
And yeah, meanwhile, the little lie detector is very calm heart. He's evened out.
Yep.
And that's enough to convince Ezra.
And I think that through that, he convinced himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think he now is like, I'm not lying. This is real, and I'm doing this.
He beat a lie detector.
Yep. He's God. He's God.
But yeah.
Feeds that ego even more.
Ooh, yes.
Ooh, yeah, baby.
And he like comes back to the office, Dr. Lewis' office, and he's like, "Oh yeah, they're gonna call. They're definitely gonna call. You know, we're gonna make a lot of money." Yeah, she goes into the bathroom. They're talking about their plan of how they can get, fool Ezra, I guess.
Yeah.
She's in the bathroom. He's like copying the key to the closet, and she comes out and shows him like, essentially, she's like, just so you know, when you mess with people like Ezra, you can get hurt. And she shows him the scar, and it's this massive scar down.
Like, what did they do to her?
Yeah, who the fuck knows? And he's like, what happened? And she's like, life happened to me.
Life happened to me.
And then
that's perfect.
That is super interesting how that scene ends. And it's a huge power moment. He gets on his knees and starts kissing her scar.
Yeah,
but
all the way down.
He's on his knees and she's above him. She's pulling him in.
And she's not that phased. Like it's happened. She's like, like she's not the way,
Yeah.
She knows what's happening. Boy. Yeah.
Get down, doggy.
Get down, boy. Go ahead. Get down.
Go ahead now.
She get down. Money.
And that night, because why he stole the key was because she doesn't agree to give him any more information about Ezra, because that was one of her patients, and she's like, that's completely unethical. Okay. But so I can't
who's she to say?
Yeah. I can't give you any information. So he breaks back in, and he's just listening to their sessions. And that's how he's getting all this information about Ezra. And then he goes
to the library.
And gets his safe, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gets access to his safe and his possessions. He's looking at mementos that he has of his dead wife. Gets a picture of her. He's gathering information. He's forming his plan of how he's going to manipulate this guy. And then he goes to meet with Ezra. And talk. This is what they're in the garden. They're walking through the garden. It's winter.
Yeah, yes.
It's winter. They're walking through the garden, and they're talking about this woman that he sensed. And Bradley Cooper's, keeping it cool. He's not doing any like, oh, I feel her right now. But he's like sliding things in there very subtly, where he's like, yeah, the child and his are the mother and the child, and that like stops him in his tracks. Like, how did you know? How do you know it was a boy?
Yep.
Yeah, and again, pulling him in, and then he pulls out. I'm getting a name that starts with D. Getting it, Dory? Is that it?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh, how did you know that? That was her name. My poor Dory.
Put Sam in this movie.
Thank you.
Honestly, Oscar nom.
I'm gonna manipulate you.
I'm gonna manipulate you.
I'm gonna manipulate you.
I'm a massive manipulator.
Oh my god.
And I mean,
Ezra offers money, right?
He sold. It's like $10,000
a session. Yeah.
10,000 a session, and I want eventually for you to materialize her. And he's like, okay. He's like, it's going to take a lot of work, and you're going to have to repent your sins and confess your sins. And I think we can materialize her. I think we can do it. And they're talking about their plan to how are we going to materialize this ghost. And Stan is like, well, we're going to have to get Molly to agree to be the ghost. And then Dr. Lilith is like, put blood on her hands, because if it's more shocking, then he's...
Shock value.
Yeah, it's less inclined for him to look closer or whatever.
Yep.
And then this is the scene.
This is the scene.
This is the scene where she's got her own drink, and she takes a sip, and there's this sexual tension that's always going on between them. And then you called out, they finally have this, like, small kiss.
So small.
So small.
Just a taste.
Just a taste. But she had just taken a sip from alcohol.
Yeah.
Giving him that little taste.
Didn't notice that before.
No.
Now it all makes so much sense.
It's a good call. It's a good call.
It's so smart.
Yeah.
She's brilliant.
She's brilliant. And
Every time she did something with the whiskey, I would shout out, "You're so smart.
Mhm.
You're brilliant."
Yep.
So then, like, she,
in front of him this whole time.
absolutely,
Yeah.
kept like luring him
Yep.
more and more each time.
Mm-hmm.
She is like all of the sins in one. She's greed.
Him
she's
too.
lust. Yeah.
They're the same person.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are.
It's just a duel this entire time between them, and who's going to win out? Who's
Yeah.
going to win out? Who's going to come on top? And I mean, I think she's on top the whole time.
She's not. Yeah, she's never not.
She's got that. He's got that taste, and he takes that whole thing down. That
Oh,
whole
yeah.
cup of whiskey.
And she, did you see how she was just like, and now I got you.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It wasn't, because it could also be mistaken for her just being like surprised that he downed it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
It was all like, yeah, that's it.
I gotcha. Well, and it's the same moment that Willem Dafoe would have when he gave the geek the drop of
Yep.
opium. He was like, once they take that, they're mine. And that's the moment that she's having right now, too.
Mhm.
He's taken his biggest
Vice.
vice, and now I can control him with it.
Oh, yeah.
But now we got the big spook show.
The
The main stage spook show.
Spectacular.
The
Yeah.
spookiest of them all.
Spookiest of them all. The Bradley Cooper and Molly are. This is like the pre-show, and he's like telling her to go through the plan. You're gonna come through this gate at 8:00 precisely. Just stand there. He's gonna close his eyes, and then you're done. And then we're done.
Because humans aren't more complicated than that
Yeah.
Right.
in his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what's going to happen. And what could possibly go differently?
Yeah.
He's going to do what I tell him to do. You're going to do what I tell you to do. Everything's going to be fine.
And then we'll be fine. And she's like, all right, like, I'm going to do this for you, but enough is enough.
Mhm.
After this,
It's like, I'm done.
I'm done. Yeah, she's like, we're over, essentially, after this. And as long as she does what he says,
He's
it's
like-
fine. Like, just do this. Let's go.
Yeah, he's like, no,
Whatever,
you
we
won't.
can be done.
Yeah. No, you won't be done. Let's just do this.
And also, I think, too, it
So
goes back
sad.
to this, like, he now thinks he's going to be moving up with, like, Dr. Lilith. Like,
Yeah.
now she's going to be my partner in crime, so I don't need you anymore. After
Yeah.
this moment,
This is
you
it.
can be a ghost.
Yeah.
For all I care. You know?
I'm going to ghost you.
Ghosted.
the first ghosting.
The first
ever
ghosting.
seen in America.
And so Bradley Cooper takes Ezra into the maze, or into the garden, and he's like, if you want to see her, you have to confess. You have to confess all your sins. He's like, I've done things. I've done awful things.
And he doesn't want to see her at this point too, right? He's like,
Mhm.
I actually don't want to do this.
I
Like,
can't do
I
this.
can't do this. And he's like, nope, you got to.
You're going to. And there's this moment where he's like, all you have to do is repent your sins, and you'll see her. And he's like, I've hurt people. I've hurt women. Like, a lot of women. And I was just trying to get rid of this anger inside of me. And I'm like, holy shit, is this guy a fucking serial killer too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, is he like
He's trying to rid his own guilt through this. This is the whole thing right now. He doesn't care about anything. He's just looking to clear his conscience. Like, it doesn't matter if it's real at this point.
Yeah.
He's choosing to believe it because it'll get him off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ezra, you are one of those weird rich people that just does whatever they want.
And gets away with it.
And gets away with it. Till right now. Because here comes Dory. Dory's coming. Here come Dory. And he's like, I mean, he's shocked. He's like, holy shit.
He's like, there
I
she
fucking
is.
see her. There she is.
And what does he do?
Runs to, duh.
Yeah.
That's what
He's
I would
not
do.
going to get on his knees and pray.
No. He does get on his knees when he gets to Dory, but then she's like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And he realizes, holy shit, that's not Dory. Who the fuck are you? You motherfucker. You motherfucker. He's fuck. I mean, I would be fucking pissed too, obviously.
Yeah.
And then he hits Dory.
Punched.
Stan like fucking clicks into like something else. Like very animalistic, just going at Ezra.
Well, this is where the theory of probably he watched his dad kill his mom is that once he laid a hand on her, then because like we don't see him ever beating up Molly.
Yeah,
he's just kind of verbally abusive.
Yeah.
Which is still abuse.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this is when I was like, oh yeah, of course.
Yep, I thought the same thing. I was like, something inside of him was like, he has to protect Molly.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And any older man in Stan's life, he automatically associates with his father.
Yeah.
And also that could go back to why he doesn't even really care that he's doing this to this guy. Because he sees him as his father.
Yeah.
And that piece of shit, that motherfucker, like, I don't care. I'm going to use your pain against you because I don't care about
And this
you.
guy just kept hurting women. And that's, like, his number one, like, Like, he did it to young women. Like, whoo.
Yeah.
And then they're off. He's like, let's get the fuck out of here. Runs over the bodyguard, too.
Twice. Like, and, like, in front of Molly. Like, that must have been horrifying.
He's calm still.
Yeah.
Like, we see him driving the car, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
he's not even sweating again. He's just running over him, and then they get...
Molly was like, oh my god,
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, obvious. Like, horrified. She's terrified. And he like smashes the car windows in, trying to get rid of the car, trying to make it look like a
robbery or whatever.
robbery, and then she just slaps him.
Well, no, because he goes, he says, like, we have to make it look like this. They're coming for us. She slaps him and goes, shut up, and walks out.
Mm-hmm. No we anymore.
No.
Yeah.
And she's gone.
Gone. Enough is enough. Good for her, finally.
Yeah. I'm like,
yelling,
oh my god.
He's like yelling, I don't need you. I can do this on my own.
Mommy,
I don't need you. I'm going to run to my other mommy.
Literally, my mistress mommy.
My mistress mommy.
Yeah.
And he goes to...
She literally says that.
Dr. Lilith. And, well, he's like cleaning his wounds. A little like piece of glass or tooth or something comes out of his knuckle. He takes a nice swig of alcohol, and she gives him the money. And right before he leaves, she's like,
as she says, I do love you, Stan.
That stops him in his tracks. Completely stops him in his tracks.
And I can't figure out why.
Yeah, I can't figure out why, because that's her tell.
Yeah.
That's her, like, he immediately after she says that, realizes, wait a second, you've been conning me the whole time. All the money that she just gave him, it's all ones. It's not even the money that he got for her.
And then she starts recording.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh no, what are you doing here? And he's like, you friend? She's like, I don't know what you're like. She like frames the recording to make it into she has had nothing to do with this.
Yep. And she's like, when have we ever met anywhere else outside of my office? And he's realizing that he's the one that's been doing everything this whole time. It can all fall back on him. And yeah, she's outplayed him. Mm-hmm. She did it.
She says mistress. She calls herself his mistress and his mother after the recording, and then goes, my favorite line of the movie. You're an okay with straight teeth.
Yes.
An Okie with straight teeth. Yes. And she says something to the effect of, people fool themselves.
Yes.
That was her play
Yes.
the whole time, was to let him keep fooling himself that he was in power. And he gets out of there. He gets out of there.
She calls the police.
She calls the police. He tries to choke her out real quick.
You always take my breath away.
She starts laughing while she's being choked.
Yeah.
She's insane.
She's insane too.
Yeah.
a sociopath. Yeah.
She absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's insane.
And then he gets out of there because the police bust in. And
Bustin'. How do you
busting
know?
makes me feel good.
Bustin'.
Hey, busting makes me feel good. And so they're out of there. He's out of there, and he ends up jumping on a train filled with chickens.
Oh wow!
And he hides behind this like
Oh,
wall of
shiny.
chickens.
And he's laying in the hay, which is
Mhm.
where they keep
Yeah.
the geek in a pile of hay.
Yeah, he's like surrounded by all these chickens, which make this kind of cage-looking thing
Mhm.
around him.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I saw this movie. That was when I was like, "Oh shit, he's going back."
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
He's
there are
going
the
back.
chickens.
I threw my shit. I was like, oh my god.
Yep.
You brilliant man.
You brilliant.
And you
Brilliant.
brilliant Leslie, you called it.
You did
Well,
You doubted it, but you called it.
we have Guillermo del Toro to
You did.
Thank
Hey.
for that one.
You did,
Yeah.
buddy.
you did.
And-
You did it.
And we then cut to, I don't know how much longer later, but he is looking real bad. He's got a beard. He's got long hair. He's all dirty. He's in this like homeless camp.
Just like shelter.
Yeah, and he goes outside, and there's this interesting moment where he goes by this fire, and he takes his shoes off to warm his feet, and he's like looking at his shoe. He's
There's
like,
a
"Oh,
hole
there's a
in
hole in
there."
there." And then I remembered him saying, "You can tell a lot by a man's shoes."
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
And he's
yeah.
looking at his own shoe. He's got a hole in the sole of the shoe.
Ooh.
Ah. Sam.
Guillermo, if that was on purpose, shit.
Of course
I think it was on
Um,
purpose.
Damn.
Everything else has been very.
Very, very on purpose.
And there was also this other moment where, going back to the first part, and it's a scene between Pete and Stan, and that's the scene where he's talking about usually good manipulators learn it as a child.
Mhm.
And he also says, but sometimes if they do enough damage, there's an unfillable hole that's always inside of you, and
Yeah.
you will never be able to fill that. You
Big
get broken.
ass crack.
Big
that you-
crack.
you
The
won't-
shoe, baby, it's the shoe.
And then we see the truth of what happened with him and his father. And we go back to those like kind of cutaways that we've seen before, the reverse fire, him sitting over his father, looking loving, but then he's like, "You're done now." And he opens the window to let the winter air come in and just rips off his dad's blanket,
And watches him die.
Yeah.
wraps himself up, and just watches him. And we end right back where it all began, which is a carnival. He's back, and he shows up in the office of the new owner of the carnival, and he asks for a job. He tries to sell his act, the act that he's been doing the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Enoch
Is there.
is sitting right there,
And the radio.
and the radio, and he's like, "No, you're a drunkard. You smell like you just pissed your pants. Get out of
Yeah.
here."
You're
Yeah.
a boozer. Your act is old. Like, people don't want that anymore.
Yeah, get out of here. And he goes to leave, and he's like, "Actually, you know what? Come on, let's sit down. Let's have a drink from one carny to another carny." You know, pulling him in, starting to pull him in, and he starts to also pull him in with a sip of alcohol. And he's like, "You know what? We have been looking for a spot to fill, and you know it's not much, but hopefully you can fill it. It's only temporary. It'll be a temporary job until we find a new geek. But do you think you're up for the task?"
Gives him another little
It's
shot.
another little shot, and he drinks it, and he has this really like crying, laughing moment where I feel like he starts crying first, because I think that's his realization of being like, "Holy shit,
Mhm.
I am rock bottom right now.
He's going
I'm
through
a geek.
all the 7 stages of grief right now.
Yeah, he's like,
Just
holy
absolutely.
shit, I fucked up, I'm here, and then turning into a laughter of acceptance. Of like,
Yep. He's like,
I was born for this, mister. Now we're right back here on Nightmare Alley.
Ah.
Wow, Nightmare Alley.
What?
What the hell?
What
What
the hell?
hell? Fun
What?
times. Fun times. All right, well, let's get to some Smashing Pumpkins, huh?
Let's do it.
Let's hit it. All right, so, Maria.
I really like that. I just took the last 30 seconds to really think this one through.
Yeah.
Because I liked it significantly more than the first time I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I really, really respect Del Toro's direction and writing and all of that. Out of 5, then I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
3.5.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Nice. So, what were the main things that stuck out this time when you watched it?
Well, the little details that I didn't notice before that just make the movie smart and well done and uncomfortable and shocking. Like the kiss was one of the biggest moments for me. Realizing all the visual motifs and all of that circular things. And I really respect the job that Bradley Cooper did in the role. I think he did a really, really good job.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give him that.
I'm going to rate it not just a bit. I'm going to rate it a little higher just because I do like the psychological thriller part of it. But I tend to lean towards that kind of
I just want
genre.
more.
Mm-hmm. I totally get it.
Yeah.
I love the acting. It was well done. I also believe that Bradley Cooper did an amazing job with this. And I can see how clearly it is 2 movies. But I love the way that things were brought back.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that certain characters were in shadow of others and vice versa. And I just I kept up with it and I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm a big fan of Guillermo del Toro. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 4.6.
4.6.
Dang.
Ooh. And I think that I love Guillermo del Toro too. And something that I always say that I love about him are his monsters. And so the first time I watched this movie, I was waiting for the supernatural element to come in. And I was just expecting it because that's a lot of what his movies are. Mm-hmm. They have this element of supernatural. This didn't. This movie did not have any It was about people using people's fascination with supernatural things against them. So this time when I was able to watch it, I was like, okay, I can really now appreciate it for being about that. And we're all wanting the supernatural things to be real. And so he was almost using that against me too, where he was like, we know you want this, Sam. I know you want this, Sam, but I'm not going to give it to you.
But last mini-sode, we talked about weapon of choice.
Yeah.
And I said it was manipulating people because that is the strongest and scariest thing that you can do to someone. And just kind of keep bringing them in. It's torturous. It's torture.
And Guillermo's monster in this movie is Bradley Cooper. And a lot of other people, a lot of other characters are somewhat of monsters too, because that's their weapon of choice.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there's no supernatural monster, but there are certainly monsters in this movie, which is then terrifying because
they look like us.
They are like us. And we
us,
know there's people that are like this. This time, watching it, I was able to appreciate the movie way more for what it was. And I really enjoyed it. Because before, I kind of had that whole thing of, it felt like 2 movies. But now, going through it, it felt like we needed both parts to make this a whole, complete movie. Acting was great. Freaking loved it. I thought Bradley Cooper was awesome. Kate Blanchett was incredible.
Yes. I love her.
She was only in half the movie, but she was incredible.
She's
also,
great.
Toni Collette, shout out to you.
Yes.
Always great.
Yes.
And the style was amazing. I mean, he really leaned into the noir style hard, and everything was beautiful.
Yes.
With also having that Guillermo del Toro kind of high high reality, like fantasy reality kind of world. I think I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Wow.
Very highly rated. He won me over this time.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm shocked.
I know. I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I did the second time when we watched it, but you got me, Guillermo. You got
Guillermo.
me. Damn it.
I enjoyed it very much.
Loved it. Loved
really good.
It was good. It was good. Like, objectively a very good movie.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. We all went down the Nightmare Alley.
Oh,
We did.
And we came back alive.
We did. I don't know. Maybe a little bit more manipulated.
Definitely more manipulated than we did the first time.
Yes.
But we got to end this podcast by picking the next movie.
Ooh!
You want me to pick it?
Yes!
Mario, you get to pick it. Dig deep down in there.
Oh, deep, baby.
Mix it up. And when you pull it, read the description first, and then the title.
Do we happen to have Silent Hill in this bucket?
I did put it in there.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
A childless couple, Maria and Ingvar, discover a mysterious newborn on their farm in Iceland. The unexpected prospect of family life brings them much joy before ultimately destroying them.
Ooh.
Are you kidding me, Lamb?
Lamb!
Yes!
One that I've not seen.
I'm excited. I have seen it.
Perfect.
The main character, Maria? Are you
Maria.
kidding me?
Maria.
It's like,
Maria picked Maria.
Maria picked Maria.
Well, this is interesting because this week I had seen the movie, but you hadn't. Next week you'll have seen the movie, but I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
So
Look at
perfect little
this.
switch. Maria picked Maria. God, thank you, Horror Face. You
Wow,
are
they're working in
I
our
know.
favor.
amazing. Well, thank you, Mari, again for being on the
Yes.
show. You're back in a big way. So please plug yourself.
At Mari Duckler on Instagram and TikTok, I post singing videos. Woo!
Yeah, she's a great singer, everybody. Tiki Taco.
Tiki Taco.
Oh, tacos sound good
Ooh.
right now, actually.
Yeah.
I'm hungry too. You can find me on Instagram at Color Me Leslie.
And me at Beep Beep Richie T. And also check out the Deadlights pod. That's
Deadlights.
us. And Playground Social. That's the studio that we're recording this in.
Uh,
But
yeah.
until next time, let's get spooky, y'all.
Ooh.
I am manipulating you.
Hi.
We all have mommy and daddy issues.